facts just fall right in. And I was trying to figure out the way to get into this letter from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty to the state's Department of Public Instruction about state report cards. And I don't know if this is the way I wrote it. I could probably look it up. But the way I wrote it on Twitter is, are Wisconsin public school managers about to dumb down another measuring stick for our schools? The answer is yes. Here to talk to us about what that means, Will Flanders with the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Will, thanks so very much for taking some time. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I think that's a pretty good overall assessment of what's likely to happen here. So good job with the lead.
Well, it's, I have been known to get 1 out of 4 stories right. 1 out of 4, by the way. So much of part of this story. We're going to get to those numbers here in a second. But let me ask, because not everybody knows what the state report card is. My kid's report card, everybody's seen that. But what is the state report card? And more importantly, what's it supposed to give us? Because, sometimes when these things get a little inside, people tend to not pay attention, but this is a really, really important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the key metric that we have for measuring school quality around the state of Wisconsin. They've been in place for more than a decade, and essentially we have a 5-star rating for every school and school district in the state. What that's supposed to measure is to allow policymakers, to allow parents, just concerned citizens to see how their local schools are doing. But what we've seen is that DPI is engaged in a process over the last couple of years to, as you said, dumb down the process. Last year, we had the forward exam results that every parent in the state is familiar with. We lowered what proficiency means. So now a student is classified as proficient at a lower level than they were before. This is happening at the same time. We've seen Wisconsin falling behind states like Mississippi, states like Florida, in reading proficiency. And instead of working actively to improve it, it seems the DPI's motivation at this point is to whistle past the graveyard and make everyone think things are going well when they actually aren't.
The idea that Mississippi has become a reading and math miracle, and there really are. There are lots of education sites. Go take a look. Just type in Mississippi miracle, and you'll probably get some football stuff, but you'll also get a lot of education stuff. It should be embarrassing, because Mississippi forever was the bottom state in everything. Now, Wisconsin, we talk about it all the time on Milwaukee, worst racial learning gap in the country. And it's been that way for years. We had the story last year, 95% of black kids in Milwaukee can't do a simple word problem. These are embarrassing scores, Will, and there are 1 of 2 ways to change them. And this gets to the heart of it, and I promise there's a question at the end of this. You can either teach kids better, get them to read better, do math better, write better, but that takes years. Or you can just simply say what used to be a D is now a B. And that's what we're looking at here with both the forward exams and now this state report card. There are going to be an awful lot of schools that meet the expectations, even though the kids aren't meeting any real expectations, correct?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So even with the current report card, before the changes that occur, that are happening right now, the DPI is engaged in the standard setting process. We have 84 schools in the state of Wisconsin where less than 25% of kids can read that are rated as meets or even in some instances exceeds expectations. So we already have a report card that's not doing a good job assessing how well schools are doing. What we've seen their track record on the standard setting with what they did with the forward exam, we expect they're going to lower the standards and lower the bar even further. We sent this letter to implore them to do something different, to actually maintain high standards. Parents don't want to be told their kids are doing well when they're not. They don't want to sort of, whistle past the graveyard. So we're asking DPI not to lower the standards further. We won't hold our breath that that'll happen, but we certainly want to flag that for folks that our report cards are going to become an even less useful metric for accountability if changes like what they did to the forward exam happen to the report cards.
We're talking with Will Flanders. He's with the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Research director is his official title, but Will's one of the 2 or 3 go-to guys in the state when it comes to tracking schools and school data and school numbers. I guess I should be fair, Will. What's DPI's explanation? What do they say about the changes? I'm guessing something to better reflect the kids in the state now, and arbitrary something. What's the line from DPI? How do they try and explain this? Because everybody sees what they're doing.
Yeah, so I think they'll say that, given the changes they made to the report card, they kind of have to engage in this process. And, maybe they're right that something has to be done. But again, their track record makes us very concerned that they're going to continue to lower standards. In terms of what they did to the report card, they basically were willing to come out and say our standards were too high, which is a crazy thing to say, but that's essentially what their message was. And, our idea is that we ought to be aspirational, right? We ought to have high standards for our kids, particularly when, as we mentioned, states like Mississippi are now doing better than us. So our expectations certainly aren't high enough when you look at scores on the NAEP, and Mississippi has surpassed us, and yet we're lowering the bar even further.
2/3 of kids in Wisconsin can't read or write at grade level, but man, that bar's too high. Let's just lower that bar down. Let's go ahead and just put it right there on the floor. As long as they can identify colors, that's good enough in an information economy. Do most parents understand this, Will? I know we talk about it, and the people who are politically active, but every time, my life, the experience has been parents like their kid's teacher and their kid's school. They can see the problems at MPS and they can see the wokeness here or this, but most parents, I think, like their school and their kids' teachers. So do most parents in Wisconsin understand that we have schools that are being rated as meets expectation when 3 out of 4 kids can't read?
Yeah, I think it's sort of like Congress, right? We all hate Congress, but we all love our congressman. And I think the same thing happens with local schools. We all know the system as a whole is failing, but everyone thinks their own school is sort of the exception. And, this isn't, we're not necessarily trying to even attack teachers here. It's the overall system. It's the way teachers are being educated. It doesn't prepare them to do the science of reading and the things that need to be done in the classroom. So does the average parent out there understand all this? I think, unfortunately, that's not the case. I will say, over the past few years, we've seen parents more and more galvanized to care about what's happening in their schools. We've seen conservative takeovers of school boards around the state because of a variety of different issues that have come up from DEI to COVID shutdowns that lasted, certainly far longer than was necessary, if they were necessary at all. So there is a movement towards more attention on these issues. And I think, going forward, schools and school districts and DPI won't be able to get away with this like they have been in the past.
Yeah, wokeness drove parents back into school board meetings, paying attention. I just wish we could get the same action, the same passion over reading, writing, and math. Will, I'm going to get you out on this, and if it's a question in a left field, just tell me and we can talk about the Packers. But talk to me about the new federal supports for school choice. Was it in the big, beautiful bill? There's a lot of excitement about the next step for school choice because of what's been going on in Capitol Hill.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Corey Brewer, my colleague, and I had an op-ed in the Journal Sentinel last week talking about this. We're coming out next week with a policy report that'll go into more detail. But yeah, as part of the big, beautiful bill, there was the first ever federal school choice program. It's a tax credit scholarship that'll provide funding in a sort of an ESA fashion for tuition, for supplemental services. The catch is that the governor has to opt us in. And, obviously he's not very friendly to school choice, shall we say, in the past. But, one thing we're trying to highlight is that there are benefits to traditional public school students here as well. You could set up a program, for instance, for special needs kids, for reading assistance, for students in public schools. So we're hoping that's an avenue to get the governor on board. So again, just like with the DPI stuff, we won't hold our breath.
Yeah, look, ESAs, education savings account, backpack funding, money follows the kid. You want to fix a school? Do that. Competition gets me 4 different chicken sandwiches and each one gets better. We can do the same thing with, look, we're not going to get a Hurricane Katrina on Lake Michigan. Go look at what happened to New Orleans schools after Katrina. They got so much better. We're not going to get that, unfortunately. So education savings accounts is the way to go. Look for that op-ed. By the way, the report card meetings are next week in Madison? Can people show up and sign up on the list to speak? Will?
So this is a behind closed doors meeting, but
of course it is.
There is a,
of course
they're trying to keep it as quiet as possible. Submitting a comment as a peon like us was the best that's possible to do.
Of course it is. Hey, thanks DPI. No, let's keep the public out of public schools. I appreciate it. Otherwise, find him on Will, or on Twitter. Find Will on Twitter and follow along. We'll have you back when we start talking about school choice opt-in, and we'll definitely put that at the top of the list. Appreciate it. Thanks for taking some time this Friday.
Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.